Good morning, Kingsley Community. Pastor Colleen Wehrman here, coming to you with another daily devotion for Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. Doing The Chosen, Book 2. Again, not doing all of the book, but part of it. So go out and buy The Chosen, Book 2. Today is day 21, The Doggone Truth. Scripture reading comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7, verses 25 through 30. Immediately, a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell at his feet. Jesus, she's speaking about. Now, the woman was a Gentile, a Syrophoenician by birth. She begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. And he said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she answered him, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." And he said to her, "For this statement you may go your way. The demon has left your daughter." And she went home and found the child lying in bed and the demon gone. So sometimes there's a significant disconnect between a single moment in history and what that moment actually means in the context of history. And that's an important distinction, because hearing Jesus basically compare a woman to a dog would otherwise be completely derailing, or a little derailed. So here's the context. News of Jesus had been spreading throughout the region, apparently all the way to Phoenicia, a Roman province of Syria, also known as Canaan. The Syrophoenician woman, in other words, a non-Jewish woman, heard that Jesus was nearby, so she found him and threw herself at his feet in the hope that he would heal her little girl. It's a familiar scene that was repeated throughout the Gospels. Desperate parents came to Jesus with desperate pleas, and Jesus responded by healing their ailing children, which is exactly what happened here. Only this interaction included seemingly ungracious, unkind words. Seemingly. More context. Israel was God's chosen nation, which meant that since the creation of the world, God had been intentionally revealing himself to them, his unenduring love, his patience, his power to rescue, his mercy. Over and over again, the King of the universe offered them forgiveness and restored relationship with him if only they would turn away from their sins and back to him. The Old Testament is, in fact, the story of God's constant pursuit of the nation of Israel and their frequent rebellion against his love and laws. And now we're catching up to the woman who probably knew very little about the God of Israel or Jewish tradition, though she had definitely heard something about Jesus. For that very reason, she made her plea based on who he was, not based on who she was. She didn't argue with Jesus' assertion of her lowly status, or that the Gentiles were supposed to be, at the moment, next in line for relationship with him. She wasn't offended like we are when we read her story. In fact, she offered nothing but faith that he could do what she was asking him to do, which is exactly what he did, attributing his willingness to her great faith, and that faith that persisted in spite of him, giving her every reason to give up. The process was painful, but she passed the test, especially the humility part. Here, hers is the position we should all take before a holy God, that we deserve nothing from him because we are unclean and unworthy. We may not like the dog analogy, but in the presence of a holy God, there are worse things we could be called, and our defensiveness is likely rooted in the same self-justification and surface level good behavior that the religious leaders of her day clung to. Like them, we sometimes think we're better or more deserving than we actually are. Like them, we lack the humility required for real repentance. More context. This moment in history serves the larger story God is telling, from creation to Jesus to someday revelation. Because while salvation came first to the Jews, it was on the move for the Gentiles. It wouldn't be long before Jesus would be put to death by his own people, the message of salvation through him rejected. And then, upon his resurrection and ascension, his followers would be sent to all people with the message of salvation for anyone who humbly believes, including the mama who, upon returning home, found her little girl set free. So, that's the story of a Gentile woman, a Phoenician woman coming from Syria, and going to meet Jesus because her daughter was demon-possessed or had some kind of illness that they didn't recognize. And she asked for Jesus to heal her daughter from a distance because she had faith that he could. She knew nothing about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. She knew very little about the ways of the Jewish tradition. And Jesus calls her a dog, meaning next in line for what falls off the table. And so the table was representative of Israel, God's chosen people first, because salvation would come through Israel, would come through the Jewish people first. Jesus was Jewish, and God had set aside the Israelites as his chosen people. And then, after Jesus' resurrection and ascension, then it went out to the Gentiles, which are you and me. Unless you're Jewish, you're a Gentile. But Jesus heals along the way. He healed the little girl, and because of the woman's faith. She didn't start arguing with him. She just said, even the dogs under the table get crumbs from the children. So, in other words, how do we present ourselves in front of a holy God? Do we demand what we want? Or do we understand in the presence of a holy God, we are a broken people? And the only thing we can do is to accept the gift of grace that God gives and be thankful for it and to have faith. So the prayer focus is persist in your prayer in spite of the occasional feeling that God is not considering it. So that's the whole pray without ceasing. Pray before, pray during, and pray after whatever situation you're going through. And while you're at it, ask him for more humility, because he might not answer the way you want. Disclaimer, in his kindness, he will give it, which makes asking for humility a very brave thing to do. So if you ask for humility, guaranteed you'll be humbled. That's like you ask for patience, you pray for patience, and God gives you opportunities to be patient. Same thing with humility. I'd like to be more humble. I'd like to think less of myself and my family and more of others. And God gives you the opportunity to be humble. And usually it's someone coming along, pointing out some of your weaknesses to make you humble. No fun. Moving forward, what was your gut reaction to the way Jesus interacted with this woman, calling her a dog and making sure that salvation went to the children at the table first, meaning the bread of life would come to the Israelites first, the Jewish people? And what was your thought about that? And most of us are offended by Jesus' words, but according to Romans 6:23, what do we all actually deserve? Hint, hint, instead of trying to level up, we all got to be leveled down. Knowing that we're sinners saved by grace because of who Jesus is, not who we are, what role should humility play? One, in our posture before a holy God. So how do you humble yourself before you pray? Or do you not? Do you just expect God to give you what you want? In our level of gratitude and in our interaction with others. So how do we humble ourselves? This world is not humbling itself, by the way, just so you know. Because everybody wants to be right, and everybody wants to have an opinion, everybody's got rights, and blah, blah, blah. In Jesus' kingdom, he is the one in charge. He's the king. And so everyone else are servants, humble servants serving God. And that's the way it should be in the world, especially the church. If you're a believer in Jesus Christ, sometimes you got to just go, well, maybe I wasn't right. Maybe I was wrong. And you might have been right. But sometimes, just to save the relationship, you might just say, well, I might have been wrong. Who knows? Because we all really don't know everything there is to know about God. And if we think we do, scary. So, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to try to do a devotional from the women's retreat up at Petoskey. But if I can't, this will be the last one until Monday. And this Sunday, we're going to continue our Chosen Sermon series, and we're going to talk about resting. So we're going to talk about why God rested on the seventh day, and that he blessed it and made it holy, and that we are to rest. And that sounds kind of boring, like, yeah, I know, I'm going to rest. But we rest in, and we rest on, and we rest to. So we rest in the promises of God, that he created us, and because he created us, and because he formed us, and because he called us by his name, we are his, we belong to him. He protects us, even during those times of trials, and he promises to give us a purpose and a reason for life. And so as you go through trials and suffering in uncertain times, there's time to rest in those times. And resting doesn't mean sleeping. Resting doesn't mean laying down and going, oh, I got nothing to do, because it's usually active rest. And that means to trust and rely and be assured that God is with you through those times. So resting is not just on Sunday or Saturday, because the Sabbath would have been Saturday for the Jewish people. It's setting aside a time to focus on God and what He's done and what He will do and what He's currently doing. And so that you can rest in and rest on. And know that God's with you during those times. So, not sure how that's going to go. So pray I can get that done, because I don't have any time. All right, we'll see you maybe tomorrow, if not Monday.